Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to another reaction video. Tonight I am extremely excited because we are about to start the brand new HBO series House of the Dragon. Of course, this is a prequel to Game of Thrones, which is focusing on the Targaryen family at a particular point in the Targaryen history, which I won't say too much about as to not spoil anything for those of you that don't know the story behind it. For me, I am, of course, a massive A Song of Ice and Fire fan, not just of the Game of Thrones television series, even though I know many of us were hurt by the end, but of the book series and the entire world behind it. Hi, Nala. Nala is gonna possibly join us. Of course, I've read Fire and Blood, which is the history of the Targaryen family that this series is based upon. So yeah, we'll just say that I am hyped to say the least. And you know, not even in a nervous kind of way, which I think a lot of Game of Thrones fans are very nervous right now to see whether the show is good or not. I have confidence based on the things that we've seen and heard so far. So I'm personally just really excited to get into this. I got one of my Targaryen shirts on and ready to go. This was my one with the look at my Viserion. My Viserion. What happened to my Viserion? I actually thought about, hang on, Nala. I considered, Nala, can I have this? Thank you. I debated between wearing that one and then I got this one with Drogon burning too. I have others too. I have just the original with just the three dragons. I have ones with the crests from every single different house. It's out of control. It's a little obscene, but anyway. But the Targaryens are my favorites. If you don't know, that's where my dragon tattoos came from. This is Rhaegal and Viserion and Drogon, Daenerys' dragons. And I'm excited to see some more dragons brought to life here alongside their riders, and of course the politics and familial drama that goes along with it. Apparently Nala is also excited. Gonna try to set her here and hopefully not injure myself with her little claws too much. But yes, so I am just really ready to get into this and not spend any more time babbling, but I wanted to give you guys a little insight into my extreme love of this source material. So I'm really, really excited. Let's get into episode 1 of House of the Dragon. Here we go.
So, in the year 101, the old king called a great council to choose an heir. Over 1,000 lords made the journey to Harrenhal. 14 succession claims were heard, but only 2 were truly considered. Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the king's eldest descendant, and her younger cousin, Prince Viserys. Rhaenys, a woman, would not inherit the Iron Throne. The lords instead chose Viserys, my father.
Yep.
Jaehaerys called the Great Council to prevent a war being fought over his succession. For he knew the cold truth. The
fate was chosen
that could tear down the house of the dragon.
Okay, yeah, it's Rhaenyra's.
Was itself.
How they all have to learn to speak to the dragons.
Try not to look. It's almost large enough to settle too.
I believe I'm quite content as a spectator. Thank you.
Oh no. Foreshadowing. I don't mean that about the dragons. You know. If you know, you know! The dragon pit. I'm like so excited to see the dragon pit in actual dragon usage.
Good morrow, Alicent.
Did you sleep?
I slept.
How long?
I don't need mothering.
Well, here you are, surrounded by attendants, all focused on the babe. Someone has to attend to you.
Yeah.
You
will lie in this bed soon enough for an era. This discomfort is how we serve the realm.
I'd rather serve as a knight and ride to battle and glory.
She's got that Arya in her.
We have royal wounds, you and I. The childbed is our battlefield. We must learn to face it with a stiff lip.
I hate
Now
it so
take a
much.
bath. I stink of dragon.
I brought you something.
Mhm.
Do you know what it is?
It's Valyrian steel. Like Dark Sister.
I love that they named Dark Sister. This is already going so well.
Turn around.
Yes. We've sent inquiries to the Citadel. They are searching the text for similar cases.
It's a small cut from sitting a throne. It's nothing.
The king has been under heavy stresses preparing for the birth. Bad humors of the mind can adversely affect the body. Whatever it is, it needs to be kept quiet.
And undisciplined. Now, you're a pack of hounds, sated and honed for the hunt. My brother's city has fallen into squalor. Crime of every breed has been allowed to thrive. No longer. Beginning tonight, King's Landing will learn to fear the color gold.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He takes care of the deaths himself, huh? Oh! Huh.
It was an unprecedented roundup of criminals of every ilk. Your brother made a
Well.
public show of it, meting out the summary
Well.
judgments himself. Until they needed a two-horse cart to haul away the resulting dismemberments when it was done.
Cleaning up the streets.
Impunity.
Brother?
It's present.
Damon.
Carry on. You were saying something about my impunity.
These two. I'm so excited.
You are to explain your doings with the City Watch.
Should fear the City Watch.
Thank you for your support, Lord Corliss.
If only the prince would show the same devotion to his lady wife as he does his work, your grace. You've not been seen in the Vale or at Runestone for quite some time.
I think my bronze bitch is happier for my absence.
Lady Rhea is your wife, a good and honorable lady of the Vale.
In the Vale, men are said to fuck sheep instead of women. I can assure you, the sheep are prettier.
Dear me. You made a vow before the Seven to honor your wife in
I'd
marriage.
gladly give Lady Rhea to you,
Jeez,
Lord
bro!
Arthur, if you're in want of a woman to warm your bed. Your own lady wife passed recently.
These two.
Did she not?
Otto.
Yeah.
The Wayne Hightower of
Oh!
son of the hand of
Let's
the king.
really piss Dad off. First, we knock his son and heir down on his ass, and then we ask for his daughter's favor.
To make an impossible choice.
Well, speak it.
To sacrifice one, or to lose them.
They're going to bring the babe out now. I love you. No, it's all right.
What is happening?
It's all right.
Cyrus, please.
It's all right.
No, I'm scared. Nothing.
Don't be scared.
What's happening?
Don't be scared. They're going to bring the babe out.
No.
It's all right. Please. They're going to bring the babe out.
Oh, no, no, no.
I'm making the first incision.
No.
Please hold it still.
No, please.
Don't be scared.
I'm sorry, because I know this is an important moment, but it's just so fucked up what just happened. Oh.
Congratulations, Your Grace. You have a son.
It's a boy.
A new heir, Your Grace.
Koro akero keduna. Rotolie kepenuja kerimi ventos pentas.
Kepeo have sich. Ojidu tiberio tolet, Johran Liza.
Tresidorikesan. Dracarys!
She did it.
Here agree.
I will not be made to choose between my brother and my daughter.
You wouldn't have to, Your Grace. There are others who would have a claim.
Such as your wife, Lord Corlys, but the queen who never was.
Rhaenys was the only child of Jaehaerys' eldest son. She had a strong claim at the Great Council, and she already has a male
Just
heir.
moments ago, you announced your support for Daemon.
If we cannot agree on an heir, then how can we
My
expect a
wife
realm?
and son are dead! I will not sit here, suffer crows that come to feast on their corpses!
That was a good scene. We just pimp out our own daughter!
My mother's dresses.
Some straight up tie with Lannister shit.
The heir for a day. Did you say it?
We must all mourn in our own way, Your Grace.
My family has just been destroyed. But instead of being by my side, O Rhaenyra's, you chose to celebrate your own rise! Laughing with your whores and your leg spittles! You have no allies at court but me! I have only ever defended you! Yet everything I've given you, you've thrown back in my face!
You've only ever tried to send me away, to the Vale, to the City Watch. Anywhere but by your side. 10 years you've been king, and yet not once have you asked me to be your hand.
Why would I do that?
Because I'm your brother. And the blood of the dragon runs thick.
Then why do you cut me so deep?
I've only ever spoken the truth. I see
A
Otto
schemer.
Hightower for what he is.
A schemer.
An unwavering and loyal
A
hand.
cunt. A second son who's...
Never be.
He doesn't protect you. I would.
From what?
I mean,
Yourself.
there's some truth.
You're weak, Viserys.
Valerian skull in the shrine! Sorry, this is just so fucking cool looking. This is exact. Whoop.
I'm sorry, Rhaenyra. I have wasted the years since you were born, wanting for a son.
Your heir.
Daemon was not made to wear the crown. But I believe that you were.
The music, the
House
symbolic
Velaryon, Lord
piano.
of the Tides, and Master of Driftmark.
It was a dream. And just as Daenerys foresaw the end of Valyria, Aegon foresaw the
What?
end of the world of men. Just to begin with a terrible winter, gusting out of the distant north.
I, Rickon Stark, Lord of Winterfell.
Aegon saw absolute darkness riding on those winds, and whatever dwells within will destroy the world of the living. When this great winter comes, all of Westeros must stand against it.
The
If the
dagger?
world of men is to survive, a Targaryen must be seated on the Iron Throne. A king or queen, strong enough to unite the realm against the cold and the dark. Aegon called his dream the Song of Ice and Fire. This secret, it's been passed from king to heir since Aegon's time. Now you must be.
Okay. The music! Ah! Okay, well, that was the first episode of House of the Dragon, and I am incredibly pleased. I mean, you could probably tell just from watching my reaction that I was very much approving of things that I was seeing, but just a couple of things that I want to touch upon, that I want to talk about here before actually like wrapping up this video. But before I talk about all the stuff that I was really excited about and into, I have to talk about that ending, right? That, what the So there's this prophecy. So, okay. So we know, if you've read the A Song of Ice and Fire books, and, you know, the histories of Westeros and everything that is available, the material that is available, we know that there was some sort of prophecy that Rhaegar believed in, that he knew about, that was pushing him to feel that he had to have certain number of children, that he had to have children with certain individuals, that he had to do something, that he had a duty. Okay? George has written this, but not explicitly stated what was just stated on the show. So it would be easy to think, okay, so they kind of invented this just as a little tie-in, a throw-in to Game of Thrones and the idea of the Night King and the White Walkers and the need for the battle at the end of what we saw of Game of Thrones. Except for the fact that we know from everything he has said that George has been intimately involved with the entire process of putting together this show. That he and the showrunners are constantly talking, that they are speaking about the way that the series is going to progress, that the things are going to be discussed. So to me, what this says is that this is something that George came up with, that maybe was supposed to be in one of the latter two books, but he just hasn't written in anything that was published yet. That this is revealing something, that actually Aegon did have this vision, that actually this is something that has been passed down from one heir, Targaryen heir, to the next, and therefore that's the reason that Rhaegar had this feeling, that this idea in his head that he had to do this, that is where this came from. And so the idea that the prophecy is that a Targaryen has to be sitting on the Iron Throne when the Long Night comes, or else, basically, humanity is screwed. And that kind of is crazy if you think about it, because it's not just like tying into Game of Thrones in a simple way where like, oh, it's hinting towards this and how important it is. It's tying into all of the other prophecies, first of all in the books, the Azor Ahai, the Prince That Was Promised. Prince That Was Promised! It's tying in to also the idea of maybe the way that the end kind of came about in the series is going to be drastically, not just somewhat different, but drastically different from what we ended up seeing on the show. Because what this would suggest, if the prophecy is actually, accurate, which of course is always questionable with these things, but what it would suggest is that there has to be an actual Targaryen already on the Iron Throne when the battle with the White Walkers happens, when the Long Night battle happens, or else they wouldn't be successful, which would mean the whole idea of them fighting, and defeating the White Walkers, and then having to go and do the battle in King's Landing would be thrown into question. And the idea would be, so does this mean that Daenerys, or Jon, or the other Aegon, if he's not a fake, would actually be on the throne before this battle happens? And this doesn't necessarily throw completely into doubt, the ending of the show completely, because we do know that certain elements like Bran at the end, and Dany kind of going all Mad Queen, that those broad plot points were stated so that that's expected. But how it gets to that point could be so dramatically different. Like, Cersei might not even be a part at that point. She might be already gone or completely irrelevant. So it totally, as far as I'm concerned, that totally throws the idea of how the series is going to end completely on its head if this is the case, if what I'm saying is the case. Of course, we might never know, because George would have to actually write and publish the books in order for us to, so I should probably not even worry about it. So now, putting that aside, let's get into everything else. Everything else I thought was fantastic. First of all, I think the casting is spot on. Wonderful job so far. The actress that is playing the young version of Rhaenyra, I think, is doing a fantastic job. Everything that I've seen of her so far, and the scene that they had of her at the funeral, and Daemon basically coming up and encouraging her to go and do her job and help her father, and the weakness that she's feeling, and also I'm sure the anger that she's feeling about what's happened, but then in that moment she's able to snap back into it and find the strength to say Dracarys in such a strong manner. I thought she did a tremendous job there. I thought Paddy Considine, who's playing Viserys, is doing a fantastic job so far. Especially, the scene with the small council where he kind of lashes out at them, and then of course the scene that he had with Daemon after he finds out what Daemon was doing. Great. I think Matt Smith is doing a great job. He has that perfect kind of cocky swagger that you would expect. He has kind of, he is very much what I was picturing for Daemon, and I know a lot of people, when they heard this casting, were not totally sure, but I think he's doing a great job with it. Otto Hightower's presence is very strongly felt, and I feel like it's very well conveyed so far. I love Corlys Velaryon and Rhaenys. I know it's just the beginning, but I love the little hints that they're giving, even in the scenes with Alicent and Rhaenyra, where it seems like Rhaenyra is not taking certain things about going for power and the succession and all of that seriously, and Alicent seems kind of pissed off, and even the little moment where Alicent to say that she's not really interested in riding the dragon or flying high, but when you think of it in the context of what she might be interested in, and yeah. Again, though, I don't want to get too much into spoilery territory in any sort of way. Obviously, the sets, the costumes, the look of everything is perfect. I think the pace is really great because they are taking their time. This was obviously not a fast episode, it was a slow episode, but in the way that a lot of the earlier Game of Thrones episodes were slow positively, so that you really got a chance to kind of get to know the characters and also get to know their relationships with each other, the relationship dynamics. I mean, we already have a pretty strong sense of Otto and Damon's feelings toward each other in only one episode, which is fantastic. The one thing that I really want to talk about is Aemon. The cesarean scene. Okay, it's tough. It's tough because it made me feel like so much anger toward Viserys, and yes, there is always the possibility that they both would have died anyway if he hadn't made that decision and they just kept going through the labor. But there's also the possibility that maybe they wouldn't have, you know, the Maesters were kind of suggesting, oh well, you know, if we do this, then yeah, she's definitely gonna die, right? But maybe we can save the baby, but if we don't do it, then it'll be in the hands of the gods. Like, they didn't overtly say they will definitely both die. They said things like, sometimes you have to make a hard choice where you save one or lose both, right? But then they said, or it'll be in the hands of the gods. You know, they left it open, and to me, it leaves it in such a state where, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you don't want to, like, blame him too much on the one hand, but on the other hand, you do, because it was her body, right? It should have been her decision. And she was screaming and begging for them not to do it because it's horrific. It's like they were cutting her open while she was fully conscious and aware and feeling everything, and it just... that was a really messed up scene. And I think they did a fantastic job of contrasting it with the tournament and tying that back into what she was saying earlier, which is something that's regularly talked about in the book series, about the birthing bed being where women fight their battles and bleed for the realm, and Rhaenyra is not about that, but she obviously showcased that in the most horrific way possible. But it made me very angry at Viserys. And the thing that I find interesting is because, of course, if you've read Fire and Blood, the way that this event is depicted and her death is that she did decide for that to happen, that she wanted to save the child, even if it meant her life. And I actually really love that they did this instead, because another thing that is commonly talked about and thought about is how that is a history based on the accounts of specific individuals, and that in many instances it might not be fully accurate, but rather written in such a way as to tell a particular story that makes certain people look better than others, right? And so this, in my opinion, because again, as George has heavily been involved with this, is not just them taking liberties for more dramatic effect, but is a George approved thing, and ties back into that idea that the histories are written by particular individuals and maybe don't always completely accurately reflect the truth, but instead that history is designed in such a way to not make Viserys look like a person that made that decision that ultimately didn't save anyone and just put his wife through a horrific death. Yeah, so I really liked that they chose to do that, and I also was like extremely horrified by that entire scene. It was very affecting. So far the series has been everything that I hope it would be, and so I continue to have high optimism moving forward, and I can't wait for next week. So alright, this is getting to be a pretty long video because these are long episodes, it seems, which is great. So I'm going to wrap this up here, but I want to hear all your thoughts in the comment section as well, guys. How do you feel about this so far? Whether you are a book reader or a non-book reader, whether you've read Fire and Blood or you haven't read Fire and Blood, you know, how are you enjoying this so far? What things do you like the best? What things are you still not certain about? And yeah, alright. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm going to edit this and get it up as soon as possible. Hopefully I will see you next time. Bye!